Hi, I'm Dr. George Yancey. Let's share some paradigms. Paradigm share today is prison abolition. A good idea? Recently, Democrat socialists, as part of their plan, have talked about prison abolition, which is the idea that we will eventually get rid of prisons, get rid of the way we hold criminals. I've not really read deeply into the idea. I've read a couple of people talk about it, and the more I think about it, the more I think that it is a very bad idea, and I want to go into why it is. Before I do, let me just tell you how I feel about criminal justice and punishment, things of this nature. I do think that we overuse prisons. I do think there are people in prisons who should not be in prisons. I'm including people that are guilty of their crimes. I don't want to see prisons used, in my opinion, wasted on nonviolent people. I think that prisons do not do a good job of rehabilitating. There are reasons why that is. And if I had my druthers, we in the United States have one of the highest incarceration rates. I believe we have the highest incarceration rates in the world. We should be much lower. We should not be competing for the title of who can imprison the most people. So that's how I feel about prisons, okay? So I'm not coming at this as some sort of person who wants to gather up all the criminals, throw them in prison, throw away the key. That's not me. If anything, I'm a little bit bleeding hard on this. And I still say prison abolition is a horrible idea. Now, why do I think it's such a bad idea? First, I don't want to use prisons for revenge or punishment. There are those who do, okay? We disagree. But prisons do serve a very important purpose, and that purpose is protection. Well, there are people who do not need to be in our society. There are people who have engaged in crimes and likely will continue to engage in crimes, whether they're in prison or out. People who engage in murder, rape, all sorts of horrible crimes. Prison is the place for them. You see, one of the purposes of prison is, to me, the main purpose of prison is protection. We use prison to protect the people outside of it who are innocent, by and large, of the worst crimes. And I would like to see a change of mindset in our society, where we're not using prisons for punishment, we're not using prisons for revenge, but we are using them to protect. And as long as we need to protect, we're going to need prisons. Okay, if you're enjoying this sort of conversation, please consider liking, subscribing to this channel. I hope that we can have more conversations where we don't bounce to one side or the other, but we look at things in nuance. All right, so the question that people who support prison abolition have to answer is, what do you do with the serial rapist or the serial murderer? Or the person who isn't murdering every person, but has a hot temper and harms others? What do you do with those people? I've not heard a satisfactory answer. And what I often hear is, well, we will rehabilitate people. We'll put money into things that will help them to not commit those crimes. We will support the poor because that's going to help us to people not to engage in this sort of crimes. And I believe that you can reduce crime somewhat through social programs. I'm not opposed to putting money in those directions. I'm saying it's going to be insufficient. And one of the reasons why it's going to be insufficient comes back to a core principle in my Christian faith. That's human depravity. There's a certain set of people in our society who cannot be redeemed through programs, who cannot be redeemed through better economic systems, who cannot be redeemed in that sort of way. This does not mean that they are worthless. They're image bearers. But we have the right to protect ourselves from some of the image bearers who would harm us, who would hurt us. those who are pushing for prison abolition do not offer good, solid information or a plan on what to do with these people. I believe that we have to be very rational, very practical when it comes to protecting our society. And what we do know from data that I've seen is that a large percentage of the violent crimes is done by a small percentage of individuals. Imprisoning those individuals is not about punishment. It's not about even revenge. Understanding the feelings for these things, it's not about that. It's about protection. And some will say, well, they may kill and rape inside the prisons, which is unfortunate, and we should do what we can to minimize that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be hard-hearted about this. But if, at the end of the day, if people who are violent are killing each other rather than killing innocent people, what choice are you going to really make? So, unfortunately, and there could be some in-between cases, do we put them in prison or not? I mean, I think those are things that we should work out, but we have to retain prisons. I see, and the need to have prison abolition in order to feel that we're doing good for those who are downtrodden. I think you'll find that a lot of downtrodden who don't commit violent crimes do not want those who do to be around them. I think it's a sort of mercy that's really not merciful. Prison abolition ultimately is a horrible idea, and ultimately makes things less safe. And ultimately, it will force someone like me to hard decisions. What extent do I go to protect my family? Do I become trigger happy because the people who are let out of prisons who are violent are more numerous out there? In a sense, it's likely the case that we get rid of prisons, we will see, and even with social programs, because of the attitude I may have to have and the more violent people out there, we probably see an uptick in violence. And that's just reality. Well, I hope you enjoyed this sort of discussion. I think it's been an interesting topic tossed out there. Whatever else the Democrat Socialists may have, which may be good, I don't subscribe to everything they do, but may be good. This is just a very bad idea. Well, thanks once again, and please come back. We can shatter some more paradigms.